please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, Udayan Mukherjee has also joined us now. Good morning, Udayan. Well, there's so much news on our plate. Let's start with the banks. I mean, do you think that so much of negativity around the leadership of both ICICI and now to a lesser extent Axis is going to prey on these stocks for some time now?
Morning, Lata. It will, I'm afraid, because I think it's sentiment negative, if nothing else. It's also an evolving situation, so we are not sure how this cookie will eventually crumble. I mean, there are allegations and counter-allegations and denials, as you would have expected. So, while it does not look great, the chain of circumstances, it's not easy to actually point a finger and say that the evidence is conclusive. And the ICICI Bank board has come out strongly denying any kind of allegations of wrongdoing and supporting Chanda Kochar as they would have, as you would have expected them to. But, you know, it comes on the back of such a bad or ugly turn of events with the Punjab National Bank and the Nirav Modi case. Anyway, sentiment was quite bad. And I think global investors who are sitting outside, who own quite a bit of ICICI Bank, I imagine, would be skittish. I mean, they would have been skittish by the by the kind of news flow that has come out on PSU banks. And ICICI Bank has always got, you know, a quasi-PSU bank kind of a valuation from the street. It's never got the premium private sector bank valuation, and that kind of feeling will get endorsed by the news flow which is swirling around right now. So this is not to say that the management is culpable. We don't have enough evidence, at least thus yet, to talk about that. But sentiment will be affected, and sentiment always has a big bearing on valuations. So it wouldn't be surprising if ICICI Bank and particularly and even Axis Bank actually get dragged down and underperform the overall banking sector. But coupled with the PSU banks, this is not great news for the bank Nifty, and it will continue probably to be a bit of a drag on the overall Nifty and market sentiment.
Okay, yes, it has actually. The sentiment has been soured quite a bit. ICICI Bank is now down 2%, Karnataka Bank, IDBI Bank. By the way, Canfin Homes is cracking now, 7% lower. And Quality, don't lose sight of that. Last week it lost 30%. Quality is down another 10% after the company informed the exchanges about one of the investors alleging some fraudulent sale of shares in the company. So all of that is dragging Quality down further. Udayan, I'll just come back to you. Before we let Mr. Tulsian go, I wanted one more word from him on Canfin Homes. Mr. Tulsian, Canara Bank has called off the divestment and the... Okay, we'll go back to Mr. Tulsian in a bit. Udayan, good morning. What about the market? Do you think all of this could sort of sour the sentiment further? Because although we did see a minor bit of recovery last week, it seems like the trend could be, could continue to be on the downside. Your thoughts?
You know, Sonia, my sense is that looking at the way the market's been moving over the last 1 week, there is a clear loss of momentum on both sides. I mean, the action of the last couple of months is clear to demonstrate that the upward momentum has been lost. The market attempts these sporadic pullback rallies. They don't last very long, and maybe a couple of 100 points on the Nifty, and then we come back to where we started from. So that kind of upward momentum is no longer visible in the market. But equally, you know, after two such bad series, I mean, February and March both were awful for the market. I mean, we lost about 1,000 Nifty points. Now it seems like some of the downward momentum has also got a bit dissipated. That doesn't mean that the market cannot seek lower levels, but may not do that immediately. Because, you know, you lost some 600 points in February, you lost 300 points in March. You cannot go on falling at this rate every F&O series. So it's conceivable that what the price action is suggesting right now is that the market needs to probably just tread water for some time, digest the losses of the last couple of series, and maybe even attempt a couple of pullbacks, and then probably seek lower levels. So my sense is that we've got a loss of momentum on both sides, and unless you're presented with fresh negative news, which can come from anywhere, ICICI Bank included, that might propel the market to lower levels. But in itself, maybe the market just treads water between that 9,900, 10,300 kind of levels, and we'll see how things pan out, maybe in a series. So April, there are chances that we have a flattish, consolidating, range-bound kind of series after two very bad ones, and then we'll see how the news flow turns out in May.
Okay, well, I just want to get a quick word in on Bajaj Auto sales. They've just come out on the exchanges. The overall sales have gone up by about 23 odd percent. It's lower than street estimates, coming in at 3.34 lakh units. Now, the reason why it's lower is because the management says that in their export sales, 26,000 units have been stuck in transit. So they've excluded that from their overall sales. That's why exports are lower than estimated. Otherwise, it looks like an okay set of numbers. 23% overall growth. Domestic sales have gone up by about 20 odd percent or so, and their motorcycle sales have also done okay. About 11% growth is what they've seen.
But vis-a-vis expectations?
No, as I said, it's lower than expectations because the management says that 26,000 units were stuck in transit for export. So that's why the number has come in below expectations. But if you add that back, it's absolutely in line.
Okay, so well, we're getting auto sales numbers which are good, actually. You know, then that's the dichotomy. We're getting micro numbers that are still quite positive. You know, a bunch of the PMI numbers, CV numbers, other auto numbers have all been very good, but it's these niggling macros. Crude is at $70. It is an election year. There is a lot of negative noise, probably, which will continue trying to break bank promoter nexus, or we don't know what. So, you know, at such a time, how, if you have to take a longer view of the market, would you say it will be very ranged or plumb lower?
The news flow is not great, Lata, and you know that has a bearing in the short to medium term of where markets or prices will move. There are two issues. You're right in pointing out that some of the micro level news is not bad. It's not excellent yet, but it's not bad. And on the margin, it is the only positive that the market can cling on to. But there are two issues out there. One is at the micro level, we're getting corporate news which is not great. You know, these scams, large private sector banks under some kind of a cloud. This is micro news and it's not supporting the market. In fact, it is taking away from some of the positive sentiment which earnings or some of these fast-moving indicators are beginning to tell us. So, you know, that I think is a little bit of a problem for the market at this point. Also, the macro news is not getting better and on the margin is getting worse. You know, if you ask people, privately they will tell you that they had expected January and February GST numbers to be much better than what it has been like. And GST is a problem because we're getting stuck in the mid 80,000 crores, 84, 86,000. And the year is passing, so you should not be in a situation where at the end of the year you find out that actually GST numbers are a big shortfall because bond deals have started to just ease off a little bit and they will start galloping away once again if the GST numbers turn out to be quite a bit lower than expected. Crude technically is not looking good. You know, you ask any chartist, they will tell you that there is a kind of a breakout which the crude chart is telling you now. And if that starts moving towards $75, $80, you've got a bigger macro problem on your hands. That's why I said May, because, you know, if you have another month of GST problems, you have crude at $75, and then you run into a Karnataka election in the middle of May, where the result is not what the market wants, you could have a much bigger leg down once again. So I think the macro news is such that it's difficult to say that the market's bottoming out. But for longer-term investors, the question you asked, I think if the earnings recovery continues quarter after quarter, then I think those bad days prompted by macro would be good accumulation zones for longer-term investors.
Okay, well, for now, at least in pre-opening, it's not too bad. It's an indication that the Nifty might open about 40 points higher. What the banks are showing on the downside is being compensated by some of the auto and oil and gas stocks on the upside. So all autos are higher. Tata Motors, Maruti, M&M. Reliance is also up about 2% or so. And a couple of IT names, Wipro, Infosys, are looking good. Udayan, what about this whole trade war escalating? How do you see that play out? I mean, you know, as of this morning, China is going to impose tariffs on about 130 US products or so. Do you think all of that could make the global situation a bit murkier?
We don't want that, Sonia, to happen because, you know, we are grappling with our own macro issues at this point in time. And this is a wild straw which is floating around, this global trade war problem. And if that escalates at some point and the markets globally start getting nervous, then I think you will have another problem.